Good morning and welcome to More Tea Minister. My name is Ian. Today we are going to review another white tea, one of my favourite styles of tea. What makes this one distinctive and very interesting is that it's a Japanese white tea. Japanese tea that's commercially available is very largely green tea, although we're finding more examples of Japanese oolongs, Japanese black tea, and of course Japanese dark tea, as well as the banchas that we've already looked at quite a few examples of. But there really isn't very much Japanese white tea. So today we are looking at one. The brand is Bizenia and it's sold through Life, who we've looked at already. This is Haru handpicked Sayamacha White Tea, and the cultivar is Fuku Midori cultivar. So I do like the fact that we're getting specific details about the particular cultivar as well as the brand. We'll be looking at more detail in the third part of our video about what these details mean. And we'll be taking a very closer look at this packaging, which you probably can't see it too well against my shirt, but if I hold it up a bit closer to the camera, maybe like that, you'll see that we've got this very elegant gloss black small caddy here that contains the tea, and I've been really looking forward to trying this. I should also point out in advance of part 2 and part 3 that I only have 2 of these canisters and they contain 6 grams of tea each, so you can be very much assured that we will be as economical with the tea as we possibly can and trying to get the most out of it. So let's move on to part 2, where we look at the external packaging, any internal packaging, and the tea itself. See you in a moment. So here we are looking at the packaging for our Japanese white tea. First of all, you'll notice that it's a very simple and therefore very elegant design. We have this gloss black canister, and on top of that we have the beginnings of this label here, this sticker that's from Life, as they've packaged up the material. So I'm going to turn this over. Hopefully we're not too close to, oh, that looks pretty good. So these are the details of the tea itself. The manufacturer, the brand is Bizenia, and we've got details here about the cultivar of the tea in question and the weight, and there's some Japanese characters which I will use Google Lens on to see if I can translate them further. So I'm just going to turn this over once more. Let's make this so that that's a little bit clearer. I'm sorry this is out of focus slightly. I'm just trying to make it so that this is big enough to be able to see and try to do justice to the packaging. So this is the underside of the packaging with another sticker from Life. We've got details there about the weight of the product. It's very, very small, which is why we're going to be very careful in brewing this. But anyway, this is the packaging for our Bizenia white tea. Let's move on to looking at the tea inside. Back in a moment. So here we are looking at the tea, the product within the canister or the mini caddy. I'm going to do this in 2 parts. First of all, to show you what 2 of the 3-gram packets on the inside look like. It's quite a sturdy plastic, and you've got details there about the weight and what I assume is a best before of May of 2026, so that's next year from my point of view. And I should also point out that the canister itself, the lid has a fantastic seal with the caddy, so if you were looking for a well-constructed caddy for something and you had access to this tea, then you won't be disappointed about the quality of the packaging. So we're going to pause this once more, and then we're going to look at some of the tea on the inside. So back in a mo. So here we are at the end of this rather complicated part 2, as we take a look at the tea inside. Now, I would be lying if I said I was familiar with the characteristics of individual Japanese tea cultivars. So what we're really going to do is simply take a look at the impressions this tea puts upon us. In other words, what does it look like? The smell is coming off even from about 2 foot away. It's wonderfully fresh smelling, slightly fruity. As you can see, the tea has been nicely withered. They're almost exclusively larger pieces, if not whole leaves. Some of them look quite slender because they've curled upon themselves as they've withered, and some of them still look quite broad. I would say the largest of them are a sort of oval shape, maybe about an inch, inch and a half long. Colour uniformly green, forest green I would say, with some paler parts. I don't see much in the way of even slight oxidation. I know you might not expect that with a white tea, but it's sometimes done deliberately, and sometimes it happens just as part of the processing. I'm not seeing anything here, so I am very much looking forward to brewing this for part 3. See you then. Hello and welcome back to part 3 of our video, our review of our Japanese white tea. Having done a little more research, the tea is itself called Haru. The brand behind the tea is Bizenya, and the vendor is You Know Me Life. I did a little more reading into the brewing parameters of the tea as well as some details, so excuse me if I refer to my notes. The brewing parameters, just to get those out of the way: 5 grams of tea for 60 seconds, 95 to 100 degrees centigrade, hence very short brewing time, even for a Western style or Japanese style in this case. And that's for 200 mils. Now I've used one of those tea packets which came in at about 3.3 grams of tea, so I adjusted the amount of water, but those are the proportions. The tea itself was harvested in 2019, so it's got 6 years of aging as well. The Japanese characters that I said I would translate come out as Sayama Shiracha Shiro Liu, which in part means Sayama white tea, Sayama being the overarching region of Japan that this is from. So the tea is called Haru. It comes from the Yagi Tea Garden, and it won awards back in 2018. And in some respects, at least, it uses Taiwanese manufacturing processes, because the person who put this together, Keiichiro-san, went to Taiwan to learn about Taiwanese tea manufacturing processes. So the tea has been dried out or withered in a Taiwanese baking basket. So that's, bearing in mind this is a white tea, so it's absolutely minimally processed. So I am interested not only on the aging of the tea, but also the fact that it's Japanese, so we're looking at Japanese tea cultivars. I'm not sure if it mentions which particular cultivars we have here. I'll put that detail in the description box if I can find that out. So it's going to be very, very different because of that. On also a higher temperature but a shorter steep. I'll be interested to know how that comes out. That's the kind of distinction you might have with a gongfu steep, but obviously not necessarily that long. So enough havering. The tea has been pre-steeped and pre-strained. So let's see what we have. Well, already you can see I haven't brewed a great deal. Already the colour is a slightly more intense version of what we would expect from a white tea, that kind of greeny yellowy gold colour. That slightly viscous quality to it. On the nose it has that typical almost caramelly sweetness, what I would call a caramel sweetness of a green tea, but there's something very floral on top of that. So I'm really intrigued to know what this is like. Yes, it is slightly viscous. It's leaving a residue on the cup. Bit of fruit coming off the cup, but still sweetness and the floral quality. going to take a bit more. In fact, I might as well finish it. What can I say about that? Floral, fruity, that complex sweetness, a herbal quality as well, very definitely a herbal quality, and it all comes together very well. The complicated sweetness is definitely coming through, but the flavour is dropping off slightly, which you wouldn't expect with a tea that's 6 years old. So I do wonder whether, of course, it depends on how it's been stored. What I mean is whether there's been airflow and the chance for the tea to change in that way. I wonder whether a slightly shorter, slightly longer steep, but at a lower temperature might help. Either way, that's very satisfying. I do like that herbal quality that's coming in along with the floral quality, and that wee bit of fruit helps as well. Is this very readily available? No. Just no. There isn't much Japanese white tea available, although I'm seeing more and more of it. Some of it, I don't want to say older stock, but because it's scarce, it's sometimes sold just because people have only been making it intermittently over the years. But I'm starting to see tea from this year or last year on the market as well. And I'm only speaking as someone who peruses as a complete amateur. But I think it's only fair to leave that to one side precisely because it has got that scarcity value. It's easy to brew. I might adjust the brewing parameters to get some of that complexity that's in there or to make the flavour last longer on the palate. But 2 out of 2, yeah, it's becoming more available as well. So 2 out of 2. So in that respect, a recommendation from me, hearty recommendation. I'm not qualifying my recommendation. So it remains for me to say happy steeping and God bless.